Hello, welcome to PalaciaMagazine.com's podcast, Voices in Our Heads. My name is Antonio Ruiz, and my guest today is Griselda Suarez, a writer, artist, cook, and teacher, and currently Executive Director of the Arts Council for Long Beach. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to begin with some background. I loved how in your bio you sent me that you described yourself as a writer, artist, cook, and a teacher. So kind of like, let's start there. Tell us about those four descriptions.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I might see myself as an artist, as a creative person since I was very young. I enjoyed, at a very young age, creating stories, drawing, and painting. And I remember very distinctly thinking about how to get those art supplies. Now, I grew up in a home with a small business, and my parents ran a roofing business. And there was one particular store that I would go shopping to because they would take me when they had to do some supply runs or get some specialty things. And in this plumber's warehouse or something like that, I don't know what it was, some sort of warehouse, there in the back was a specialty art section. And so while they did their work shopping, I did my art dream shopping. I wanted all those art supplies, all those brushes, all those paints, all those canvases. I didn't know how to use them.
How old were you?
I was very young. I was probably 5, 6. Did not know how to use them. Did not know what they were for. But somehow I was attracted to them, to the calligraphy sets and the pens and the, stencils. And so I remember asking and not often getting it. And since my mom was the business administrator, we also went to stationery stores, and I fell in love with the stationery stores and the paper and the this and the that. And so I remember very much wanting all those supplies. And so, being that I did live in a creative, household in the sense that my dad was a singer. My grandma,
Professional singer?
He sang, yes. He sang and did nightclub acts and sang along with so many other local singers at the time. And my aunts played guitar. My mom and grandma did stitch work. I decided to just make do with what I had. And often I would just find objects in the garage and in the house to make things from, and often it was sculptural, and often it was a mix of objects with letters, because I was fascinated by letters, and reading and so on and so forth. So it's always been in me.
Right. I
I decided to concentrate a little bit more in the arts through middle school because the teachers saw that in me. And I nurtured it in high school. And that's when I was a bit more connected to the arts world. I don't know what my life would have been if I hadn't received a scholarship to attend Idlewild Arts Academy in the summer. They had a wonderful summer program, and I was a scholarship kid. They were doing outreach to the low-income neighborhoods of LA, and I was one of them, and I was able to go, and that changed my worldview. I saw all those supplies that I had seen as a young girl used. I learned a lot about the arts, and it became a very important part of my life. I later on in college, while I was studying studio art and studying literature, decided to go back to Idlewild and get a summer job, and as an RA, which is really a camp counselor,
Right.
and met more artists,
Right.
and that really shaped my arts community.
But you're doing like visual arts kind of stuff, but then you get into writing at some point. So
because
how did that all kind of come together?
Yes, I realized that in every single art piece, I've been writing the whole time, and I've been keeping journals, and I've been collecting writing all my life. It wasn't until my senior college exhibition where I did mixed media sculpture, and I covered most of the sculptures with letters, with sentences, with words, with phrases, that I was like, oh, I really do want to be a writer. Right. But it was even scarier to be a writer than to be an artist, because growing up being an artist in East LA, I participated in mural programs. I participated in apprentice programs. I saw self-help graphics. I participated in self-help graphics. I was involved in the art scene in a sense, right? And with writing, it was different. It was as if I heard many times, "Don't be a writer. Don't tell our secrets. Don't tell our stories." Really? And that was even harder, scarier.
Why, who's that coming from, and why?
Well, I think many times, I think family and friends are, even though they love, some of my friends loved my stories, because they were like, "Oh, tell us a story, tell us a little more," and I would make up these crazy stories about being fangirls and going to places, and I think they're, I think I felt a sense that some family members, when I said, "Oh, I want to be a writer," it meant depicting our family in a certain way. Right. When really all I wanted to do as I grew older and learned more about writing as a tool of empowerment was to show my family as a powerful example. And so it took a long time to finally realize that. And then I just took off from there. I was like, well, writing is really my ultimate tool. I still do a lot of creative work. I've learned to connect book arts with my writing, and so I make books and I deal with paper, and I still do a lot of creative things. So
I want to get a little bit more into your writing, and also just sort of the path to where you are now. But one of the things that it really grabbed my attention, where when you kind of describe where you were born, you said unincorporated East Los Angeles, and walked Whittier Boulevard and Brooklyn Avenue in black and white saddle shoes. She grew up in a place where her thoughts did not easily find voice. Instead, she found a pen and a paper. Expand on that.
I think as a Mexican girl, right, later to be named Chicana, right, and I do believe that you have to assign that label to yourself. There are things that you're taught to do. You're taught to cook, and my family did a wonderful job in teaching me how to cook. And a lot of family recipes are really well known, and so I'm proud that they taught me how to cook. But that also meant that cooking was going to be for family, and it was sort of an obligation, right? Mm. They also teach us how to clean very well, right? And you have to do this, and you have to iron, and you have to do, and I have to say that now my meditation is ironing and sweeping and doing dishes.
Okay, that's a good way of rationalizing.
It is. It's really weird. I feel very calm. I feel very calm when I'm doing.
Hold on a second. I need to meditate.
I do. I sometimes leave the Arts Council office, go to my house, and sweep to process.
That's okay.
It's very interesting. And so writing came to me in the sense of poetry and verse and song because of my dad's family. They're singers. They compose music, corridos, and they share that talent with the family. I learned writing through them. And so it was definitely a part of me. And when I finally allowed myself to say, I'm a writer, I use words as a tool, I it kind of just exploded out of me. And
what age did you feel, like you said,
yeah.
I'm a writer?
It wasn't until after college when I realized that I was more writer than visual artist. So a lot of my mentors were concerned about my graduate school, and they asked me what I was going to do. I was prepared to go into teaching for Spanish literature. I was prepared to go into an MFA, possibly, and apply to different programs. But technically, I wasn't prepared for a writing program. And that came because although I participated in poetry slams and open mics, and I did a lot of readings in college, I did not take classes. And so I could improve through a graduate school application process that I had an interest in creative writing, which I thought was interesting, right? And I also majored in Spanish literature instead of English literature. And a lot of the writing programs I was applying to required an English literature major.
Interesting.
Yes. And so I'm like, well, there it goes that. I'm a little screwed here. And I think a lot of that comes from, and this is a really important issue for me, although my mentors meant well and my professors meant well, many times I felt that my college experience, administrators did not know what to do with a person of color who wanted to do the arts. Because I felt geared towards PhD in this and going to teaching and going to social work and going to social service, but technical arts, industrial arts, or even just fine arts people didn't know what to do with me. So I moved to San Francisco with the job and started working, and finally there felt I can call myself a writer by the people I was meeting and the things that I was doing. Different atmosphere. And then I went back to community college. And I went to the City College of San Francisco.
Wait, this is after you graduated with a degree?
Uh-huh. And I took writing courses.
Well, that's an interesting, different track.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I took writing courses, and I met some really cool people. I met some great, amazing artists, some amazing essayists and professors, and got involved in the writing scene there. And it was only after about 2 years of taking writing courses that I decided I could apply for an MFA program.
We're going to have to take a break soon, but I wanted to talk about something in terms of your literary career and how you, in the ways you've gone. So, for instance, your work in LGBTQ literary press, and some of the things you've gone in those directions. You helped start a magazine for queer Latino readers. When did this happen, and how did this kind of dovetail to where you were going, or where you've been and where you were going?
Well, I didn't know where I was going.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but what I do know is that the writers I admire the most, writers like Audre Lorde, writers like James Baldwin, Chedi Moraga, Dorothy Allison, they wrote to write. And Audre Lorde in particular also had a full-time, daytime job, right? She was a librarian. And so writing was in addition to or complementary to her community work as a public librarian. So for me, even though I did not know where I was going, I knew that what I wanted to do was be involved in an art that also involved my community work. And so that's what I did. I connected writing to community organizing. I connected writing to reading at rallies or at symposiums or some sort of community meeting. June Jordan, right, as well. Portrait for the People. I connected writing to the empowerment of people of color. And I volunteered at the Women's Building, and I worked for youth programs. Wonderful building, right? And worked for youth programs in San Francisco. And then when I finally started my my writing program at New College in San Francisco, my workshops and my practicums were all about actually at the Women's Building for free. Anyone can register, and involved people that way. So I didn't know where I was going, but I knew how I wanted to get things done. That was more important for me. And so when I moved back to LA, I realized that this was in 2005. I knew I had to rebuild community because I had a community in San Francisco and I met some amazing writers, but I needed to rebuild here. And I did. I just started volunteering. That's really important for me. Volunteering here, volunteering there, and kept writing and meeting other writers of color. And I say that one of the best things that MySpace ever gave me was connection with the writer.
MySpace is social media.
The MySpace, that underused, I don't know where it is now, social media site, gave me a connection to a local writer, Miriam Gudwa, and she and I met and said, hey, you want to have some coffee? And then we became closest of friends, and now we're creative collaborators. Right. And so it was through that and teaching at Chicano Studies at Long Beach State, which I started teaching there fall of 2006. And it was through my teaching, my volunteer work, meeting other writers, that created a synergy here with, my own work. And I met, you just never know who you're going to meet. And I met certain people for Porque Sí magazine through a fellow person that I knew in college. And so the community is really small. The community that wants to do something creative is actually pretty tiny when it comes to it. And through Idlewild, through the Bay Area, through the Claremont colleges, that was, Pitzer in particular, my college, I made a connection of network, a network that really works for me.
I want to jump off of that into some other things. I think where I want to kind of get to is where you are now, but I'm going to have to talk about this little part of your life in about your food business and cooking, cooking part of you. So we're going to talk about that. Let's take a quick break, and when we return to Voices in Our Heads, more with Griselda Suarez.